computer. So insert your Paul Heyman voice. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the very first episode of Chair to the Face Wrestling Podcast with your hosts, Chrissy and Chris. So, first, I'd like to thank everybody for joining in, for watching, for getting on this journey with us. So, how are we doing tonight?
Man, it's exciting to be here. We've been wanting to do this for quite a while. I wanted to start a podcast with wrestling and didn't have the time to, and then you messaged me a few days ago, and here we are. I'm excited, man. I'm ready to get going.
So I think what prompted this for me was everything that happened in Elimination Chamber. And I'm always asked the question, which I'd love to just dive into it, is what makes you a wrestling fan? What drove you to want to be a wrestling fan? This is the most emotional thing you could ever put yourself into, honestly, in sports entertainment besides football. If you're a Cowboys fan, you understand. For me,
Or a
for
Saints fan.
we're a Saints fan. We are bonded by trauma. For me, my childhood growing up, I was a rough and tumble tomboy. I wanted to play with the guys. I wanted to go out, play tackle football. I wanted to wrestle the whole nine. And my dad, God rest his soul, was the one that got me into wrestling very early on in the car seat carrier in front of the TV watching wrestling.
Hmm.
That's where my journey started. Memories of DX invading WCW Monday Night Nitro, um, NWO, Wolfpack, Sting, the whole nine.
There
That's
you
where it
go.
started with me. So, where did it start with you?
Same. So it was really I kind of have always been a wrestling fan. There was nobody that really got me into it per se, like your dad or anything, but I've just been so kind of obsessed with the combination of action and athleticism that dives into storytelling and just it's a soap opera, right?
Yeah.
So it's but to combine the athleticism with the backstage stuff and the personal rivalries, it's cool, man. Like I've just always been, and I grew. I mean, we're basically each other's age, so I the Attitude Era was, that was it, and I started watching a little before the Attitude Era. I mean, I started watching when Sean and Brett were
Oh,
doing,
yeah, 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 yeah.
and so it was a little bit pre-Attitude Era, but yeah, I mean that was it, dude. Like, and my cousin Tyler, who's more like a brother to me than a cousin. He and I would watch it all the time. So I've just always been a fan. It's just kind of been one of the big things in my life for a long time.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I always come back to. I took a little hiatus for a few years because I just felt like it just the storylines just felt the same, just
Yeah.
raw from the heart. It just felt like I was watching the same thing every single week. It didn't feel like it was just, oh my God, shock factor where it
Right.
has been now. Like you have a great team of guys, like kudos, just kudos to Paul Levesque,
Oh,
Triple
what? Are
H,
you kidding me?
running the shit,
Oh, look,
running the shit.
Triple H, you know, and I know we need to get to some stuff here, but
Mhm.
you know how I feel about Triple H. Triple H is, to me, he's the best mind for the business that has ever existed. Even when he was a top guy in wrestling, even when he was the world champion, he's just built different.
Mhm.
He's just, and whether that has to do with the fact that he married into the McMahon family or whatever, it doesn't really matter. He's done. The business has never been bigger. It's never had a bigger audience than it has now. So many young kids are watching, and that's good because you got to get the young. Those are your that's your
Hmm.
future audience, right? And so if you can relate to the young generation, and that's what they've done. But the cool thing is they haven't. They still include the guys that have been watching it for 25 and
Hmm.
30 plus
Right.
years. So the storytelling is so much better. When Vince was in charge, it just kind of got stale,
Yeah.
like you said. And it hadn't been stale for about 3 or 4 years now. It business is great, man.
Like these kids today, I know we got to get into it. We have a lot to unpack tonight.
Mm,
These kids today, oh my gosh, they are so beyond blessed because when I was growing up, women's wrestling matches were lingerie panty matches,
correct. Yeah.
and you have these group of badass females just
Yeah.
straight to it.
The
And
the
can I
fem yeah, the females is where it's come
Right.
the
It's
farthest.
that is what got me back into wrestling was watching these women just dominate because I didn't have that growing up. Yes, you had Trish
No.
Stratus, you had Lita, they were on a whole different level. You had Tori Wilson, but it just wasn't fair because these women had so much potential to just some of them had just
Women were more sex
yeah,
symbols than they were athletes.
yeah.
And you had your like you said, Trish Stratus,
Hmm.
Lita. I would throw China in there. I would throw a name like Molly Holly in
Hmm.
there. I mean, Michelle McCool. You had your athletes, but for the most part, it was Sable, Tori Wilson,
Yeah,
Stacy Keibler.
yeah.
It was the sex symbol kind of thing. And
Right,
yeah, the women, and we'll get into it, but the
right.
women is where it's come so
And I
far.
think what's so exciting is when we were growing up, the pay-per-view matches, you had them on Saturdays, and God forbid your parents could not afford the pay-per-view, and you had to wait until either Monday when you went to school
Hmm.
or when you were out in the neighborhood and the kids were talking about what happened at
Yeah.
SummerSlam or WrestleMania. So I do love the inclusion of just everybody with this.
Oh yeah, they've made it more accessible, right?
Yes, and it makes
And
it
that,
exciting. You want
correct.
to tune in. So,
Well, if you make it more accessible, your audience gets bigger.
right,
Duh.
right.
And but Vince was kind of stuck in his, and look, I love Vince.
Yeah,
Don't get me wrong. Vince is the reason we're here, okay?
right.
But it just got stale and he got stuck in his old ways, and
Hmm.
Vince had his boys, right?
Right.
Vince had his boys and his cronies, and good on him. But we're in a different era, man, and this is some of the coolest wrestling I've ever been a part of, man.
Well, from there, let's go ahead and jump into it. So we are officially 5 weeks,
5 weeks.
5 weeks away from the biggest sports event for us wrestling fanatics, the showcase of the immortals. Lord, I can't talk tonight. It's called the biggest sports event of this time of the year. It's like our Super Bowl for us
Hmm.
wrestling fans. We get together, we do parties, we do the whole nine.
Oh
We
yeah.
take it to a whole level. Last year, I planned my honeymoon and my wedding around wrestling. So
There you go.
we're going to jump into it. I'd like to talk about Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble, 30 man, winning it all, going after Gunther. This storyline, I love an underdog story. Jey is phenomenal. He is an amazing performer. I have loved where he has grown just in the few years and where he is now. I'm ready to see him take it all.
So Jay is interesting because I'll tell you who Jay reminds me of. Jay reminds me of Edge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in the sense that for 5 or 6 years, Edge was looked at as a tag team wrestler. And then when he and Christian, when they did the brand split, okay, back in '02 when they had the first
Mm-hmm.
draft, Edge won the Intercontinental title and he started getting out on his own. But it wasn't until like '06 when he won the WWE title off of Cena
Right.
and became the rated R superstar.
Mm-hmm.
The What changed for Edge is the same thing I feel that has changed for Jay. It's the charisma factor. It's he's so much himself, and you can relate to it, and you can see it, and you can see how much he enjoys it. It is, I believe it is the right time for Jay to become world champion. He deserves it. He's lost to Gunther before, multiple times,
Right.
which kind of leads me in the direction that they're probably gonna, Mania is probably gonna be Jay's shining moment. And look, he deserves it.
Hmm.
He's come a long way, man. Jay's awesome.
He really is. I honestly, I'm all for the heat for the faces of the company, but there's something about the heels recently, especially Gunther. Like I really love Gunther as a heel. He just does just fucking love the guy.
And talk about a
Um,
transformation. Like
yes.
when Gunther was Walter, right? He was overweight,
Mm-hmm.
slow, not that mobile, chop you to death,
Right.
like he still does today,
Right.
but
Yeah.
he didn't get around the ring, and it wasn't. Now he's dropped all that weight, and that's another one that's kind of
Yeah.
found his niche in charisma as a heel. And look, I'm a heel guy too.
Right. Yeah.
I love heels. And so, yeah, I love Gunther. I think he and Jay's differentiation and style works really well together.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, it's gonna be the fourth or fifth match they've had,
Yeah.
and we're not tired of it. So I'm looking forward to it.
I think this is the best homecoming for Jay is getting that belt and
Oh
finally
yeah,
beating Gunther.
it,
It's
it's
going to be
it's
great.
it's he deserves it. It's time.
Amen.
He's super hot right now.
Hmm.
The crowd's totally behind him. It's the right time. It's just a question of, will Gunther drop it cleanly, or will there be interference of some sort? Because he's got Ludwig Kaiser,
Hmm.
Imperium, that kind of thing. But no, I think Jay is, and anything can happen at Mania,
Yeah.
obviously. But it's the right time for Jay.
Oh yeah. I'm ready to see that. I'm also ready. Can we talk about Io Sky and the two slaps heard across the world and the
Dude,
major just fit between her and Rhea and Bianca Belair? That I was watching it Monday night. She smacks both of them like it's nothing and is like, "You will listen to me. I am the champion. We're not doing this. You two are not going to bicker like little children." I'm excited to see that. I kind of had an inkling that we were going to become a three-way title match.
so I was really surprised, and I'm not surprised too often, but I was surprised that they took the belt off of Rhea this close to Mania.
Yeah.
Um, Io Io is a different kind of athlete. She is unreal in the ring. Um, but the whole thing, it's weird because Bianca winning the chamber should inherently give her a one-on-one match against whoever the champion is at Mania. But you got Rhea, who they dropped the belt. They took the belt off of, but she's also entitled to a rematch. She's got a
Right.
rematch clause that she can invoke. And so, yeah, the triple threat thing was kind of, written in the stars, but those are three of, I don't know, three of the top 5 or 6 females in the company. Um, which direction they go is going to be interesting, because Rhea had a really long and really good reign. Io's had the belt for a short time, and they usually don't take belts off of people after
Right.
6 weeks.
Right.
But Bianca's got momentum with the whole Jade thing happening that we'll talk about. And I just, that's one for me that's a little unpredictable. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I loved the segment
Hmm.
with those girls on Monday. And we literally just talked about it with Jay. She's coming into her own.
Right.
She's got it in the ring. We know that. Can you develop it here, and charisma wise? And we're seeing Io do it. And again, it's tougher for Io because there's the language barrier.
Hmm.
right. And so to see her coming full circle, it's really cool, man. It's good storytelling, and I'm anxious to see which direction they go at Mania because I don't know right now.
Right, because last year she had lost the belt to Bailey.
Hmm. Right.
And that was honestly a shocker for me because EO has picked up, like you said, so much momentum already in the company. And it's just she really is coming into her own character. She's less and less, I think, with damage control. She's
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
more, I'm doing this solo mio. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Um, so I am interested to see what happens next. I honestly like wonder if there's going to be a heel turn within one of those women.
You would think that one of them would kind of play the role of heel and but then again, they may go in as three faces and the crowd decides who wins the match.
Right.
Like that's happened before. Like Rock and Austin.
Hmm.
Like those were two faces going into the same match, and neither one of them could play heel because they were both so loved
Right.
by the audience. You couldn't make The Rock a heel, and you damn sure couldn't make Austin a heel. They tried to make Austin a heel, and it worked for a time,
Right.
but
Yeah.
everybody loves Austin, you know? And so it's one of those things where they could go in three faces and may the best woman win.
Well, now that we're talking about the women, Jay Cargill
Yeah,
and Naomi, holy crap.
shocking.
That honestly, I really thought it was Liv Morgan.
Hmm.
100% because you see Liv beating the snot out of Rhea
Hmm.
just right before Halloween, I think it was. I can't remember dates because I'm horrible with dates. But I honestly thought that was a work of Rodriguez and Morgan. 100%. I was not expecting it to be Naomi. I also thought maybe Bianca just went and beat
Hmm.
the snot out of Jade. That's what I was thinking too. This threw me for a loop. Let's get
Yeah.
into it. What do you think?
Well, it's kind of crazy because Naomi's never been a heel, right?
Right.
Ever. And she's been around for a long time. Um, it's all to set up Jade, right? I mean, Jade comes out on top of this rivalry, you would assume, because Jade's new on the scene and she's the hot commodity that
Mm-hmm.
everybody wanted, and she went to WWE instead of. And so Jade, Naomi is elevating Jade. And what kind of, my biggest question about this whole thing, quite frankly, at this point is what happens with Bianca?
Mm-hmm.
Is Bianca done with both of them? Or do Bianca and Jade stay friends and they both have a vendetta against Naomi? What what is Bianca's Well, obviously you would think she would side with Jade because Naomi's the heel, but it was shocking to me.
Yeah.
I again, I'm like you. I thought maybe it was Bianca that, maybe got a little bit jealous that Jade was
Yeah.
so hot
Right.
and was getting all the attention and everything. And maybe Bianca did it to, maybe Bianca did it to get that spot in the chamber
Right.
as opposed to Jade, but apparently I was wrong, so it's interesting because Naomi has never been a heel before,
No.
ever.
No.
And so, yeah, didn't expect that at all.
I have the feeling that Bianca is very much going to be like, look, I have business I have to take care of at Mania between Io and Rhea. I'm going to come back to this because this is just too much to
Mhm.
deal with on top of having to deal with a championship match. I have a feeling that Bianca's putting a pin in it for now, but she's coming back to it. I
Yeah,
feel,
yeah, for sure.
I honestly have this feeling like you said, I really think she's going to side with Jade, but I think she's going to take her whole heart out of it and just go into it logically of you did this to Jade. I want to understand why. Okay, that's awesome, but I'm gonna beat the snot out of you now. All love aside, dude, like we're gonna get at it now. I
I
think
think
that's what's gonna happen.
I think the Mania match is going to tell us a lot too, because it could be one of those. I guess again, just a prediction,
Right.
but just suppose that in the triple threat match, Bianca's got momentum. Bianca's got the match where she wants it, and Naomi comes out, gets involved, and costs Bianca. The Mania match is going to tell us a lot. Obviously, WrestleMania is it's the pinnacle.
Right, yeah.
It's where you get a lot of answers,
Mm-hmm.
but some questions.
Right.
And so to me, that's one of the things that's up in the air. Like I said, what is Bianca's role post Mania in this Jade Naomi thing? And maybe over the next couple of weeks something happens. No idea. But I was surprised that it was Naomi that put Jade out. I was surprised.
Yeah, that was a shocker for me. Because I really didn't expect it of Naomi because she's always been a face. For
Right.
as long as I remember, she was with the Funkadactyls. Like she's always been a face. She's always been loved by the crowd, and just to see that,
Hmm.
I'm really confused about it, but I understand this is entertainment and I understand they like to pull at our heartstrings and make us cry. So it
And
is
again,
what it is, you know?
and again, I think a lot of it is it's Jade's time.
Right.
Naomi's a vet, right? Been around the block.
Mm-hmm.
Naomi's a veteran. Bianca's in her prime. Jade is on the come up,
Right.
but Jade is really hot right now,
Right.
and so it's all to elevate Jade
Right.
in the end. And so I think that's you know obviously that's just a prediction by me, but you would think Jade and Naomi at WrestleMania, probably in some kind of, non-sanctioned hardcore, whatever, just for Jade to get her revenge, I would think. Um, but yeah, it's interesting, but the dynamic between those three. And again, Mania is going to tell us everything. Does Naomi get involved in Bianca's match? Does Bianca get involved in their match? Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
you know,
And
Mania,
Mania is one of those
Mania is the
things, it's
time,
so
babe.
unpredictable. Mania is so unpredictable. You may go into it thinking it's going to be one thing, and then 10 to 15, 20 seconds later, or even a couple minutes later, it's completely and utterly different. It,
All you have to do is watch last year's WrestleMania to
right,
understand that. Are
right.
you kidding me?
We
That was insane.
thought that Cody and Rollins were going to win the first night. Absolutely not. That didn't happen,
Nope.
but that was an amazing match. And then night two, Cody wins the belt.
Insane.
Now, all of us Cody crybabies would like to talk about what happened to our dude. What the hell? Let's get into it. Let's address the elephant in the room because we know this is one of the big discussion pieces for people in our little wrestling world. What the hell happened with John Cena turning heel and becoming the Rock's bottom, literally?
So
Insane still to think about. I'm
it
still in a
it
state of shock.
man, it's it's for me it's nuts because look, after it happened, just I say this for the record. After it happened, I called you
Yeah.
and I sat in my car and we had about a 2 hour discussion. It's a true story
Yes.
over Facebook chat video, whatever
Yeah.
it is. Okay. Almost 2 hours about this thing. And it was really at the time, it was really tough for me because when I tell you I have idolized John Cena, and again, I know this is all
Yeah.
fake, okay? He doesn't really hate Cody Rhodes.
Right. Right.
I don't want people to think that I think this is real. I know it's not real,
It's
okay?
the feeling of your childhood. You see it go like we Look, I'm right there
20
with you, dude.
years.
Like,
For 20 years, he's preached hustle, loyalty, respect, never give up, and always
right,
be yourself and never
right.
give in. And it it is the most shocking thing I have ever seen in wrestling. And that is a big statement because I watched Bash at the Beach 96.
Mm, yes.
I watched The Rock go Hollywood. I watched Triple H turn on Shawn Michaels in 2002. I've seen it all. Okay. That was the most shocking thing I've ever seen. I think there are so many different ways to look at this thing. Okay. And everybody's going to have a different prediction or conclusion or what they think is going to happen. Here's my I'm going to try to vacuum this as much as I can.
Right.
Cena is becoming what he despises. Okay? That is the story, no pun intended, that they're going with here with Cody. This is Cody's new story. Is one of his idols has turned because he's desperate.
Right.
He is desperate because a 17th world championship makes him, it puts him on a lot of people's Mount Rushmores.
Mhm.
And we'll get into Mount Rushmore
Right.
later.
Right.
But 17 world titles breaks Ric Flair's record. And that's a record that for 30 years people have said will never be touched. And Cena's this close to it. And he's doing what he thinks is going to guarantee him one last title run. Team up with The Rock because The Rock is the boss and The Rock will make it happen. Here's what I think, and we've discussed this before, but here's what I think is going to happen, okay? I truly believe that the WWE is going to have a very difficult time taking the belt off of Cody. And the reason I say that is because Cody is what Cena once was. When Cena was in his absolute prime, nobody disliked him.
Absolutely.
Everybody loved Cena until like 2012 when the Let's Go Cena
Cena
sucks
sucks. Let's go,
thing
Cena.
started, right? But there were like 4, 5, 6 years before that where Cena could do no wrong.
Look, I literally saved all of my summer money and bought a life size cut out poster of John Cena. The
So,
doctor of thugonomics was how I went to school, doing this to people
yep.
at school, you know?
So Cena has become what he despises. And I think Cody's going to make him realize that. This becomes an internal battle for John
Right.
because they're supposed to meet on Monday Night Raw in 48 hours. Okay. I think over the next few weeks, Cody is going to try to make Cena see the light. I don't think it's going to work. I think Cena is going to be dead set on, I want the belt. It's going to be mine. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to get it. And I think that Cena's going to beat Cody at Mania. I do. I think it's going to come with a lot of backlash. I think it's going to be tough to do, but Cena has like 6 more months of his year, his farewell year.
Mhm.
I do think at some point Cena sees the light because he has to live with himself and he has to answer for what he's done. And when you reflect on a bad decision you've made in life, you come to understand that, damn, I really let down a lot of people.
Right.
And it's going to be, it's like, okay, you got what you want. At what cost? All your fans don't like you anymore. You've turned your back. You've become this person that you've despised. Has it really changed anything? Because at the end of the day, who the hell doesn't think John Cena is one of the greatest of all time? Everybody does. A 17th world title, yeah, I guess it puts him in the Rushmore conversation.
Right.
But is that really that important to you, John? That's the question that's going to be asked. And so over the coming months, with him being champion, and he's going to be part-time, that's the other thing.
Right.
Right? We're going to have a part-time WWE champion again. And so he's going to have to ask questions of himself. And we discussed this right after Elimination Chamber, I think The Rock physically gets involved in this thing somehow.
Right.
I think Cena wins the belt. Cena has sold his soul to The Rock. That means that whatever Cena wins from here on out, I want people to understand this. The angle that they're shooting, Cena has sold out to The Rock, which means whatever Cena wins from here on out belongs to The Rock. It doesn't belong to Cena. It belongs to The Rock.
Right. It's basically
Because
what is yours is mine. You
it's
can't
The
have it
Rock
because I'm
living
the Rock.
vicariously through John
Right.
Cena. That's exactly right.
Right.
Cena's going to realize that. And there's going to be people from his past. There's going to be Cody, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns. All these guys are going to come to Cena and they're going to say, dude, really, bro? Was it worth it, John?
Right.
And John's eventually going to go, well, maybe not. Because it's The Rock that's stealing all the glory.
Right.
And it's The Rock that's taking all the credit. When that happens, I think at some point, Cena double crosses. And this was my prediction from the very beginning. There is no way that you could convince me that John Cena is going to end his farewell tour as a heel. There's no way.
100%.
There is no way he goes out as a bad guy.
And
So
I
at
would
some point, he's going to turn.
I would love to drive that point home, no matter how much people have wanted to see a heel turn for Cena. And honestly like, it's still a shocker for me because look, I grew up always with the mindset of never give up, keep going, no matter what goes on in your life. That was my mindset because of John Cena.
Yep.
It really, honestly, like for me, it was very soul crushing for a little bit. Just my inner child who grew up watching John Cena was very hurt. Um, he's not ending his WWE career as a heel,
No way.
nor is he, honestly, I could see him getting the belt, but I also see this. He's not getting that belt. It's, I really think The Rock, like you said, is going to interfere. I think people are going to interfere, but I also think that because John Cena is a part timer, he's not getting that belt.
Yeah. It Cody is a workhorse. Okay. And so it's tough to see the WWE, and this is why I said they're going to have a tough time taking the belt off of Cody. It's because Cody's there every week. Cody's there in matches, doing promos, defending the belt. Like Cody he's a workhorse. And so to flip to, okay, we're going Hollywood again, they're gonna struggle with that
I think it's
transition.
going to tick
So
people off.
I there's a piece of me that could see Cena losing at Mania, but if he loses at Mania, is there no 17th title for him? I feel like bringing him back and doing what they've done and giving him the chamber victory, that tells me that at some point, he's going to win the title. But is it at the expense of Cody?
Mm-hmm.
That's the real question. My ideal, if I were booking, I would have Cena win, but as long as Cena's champion, Cody has a rematch clause. And so it's going to be a thing where, oh no, Cody, you lost the belt. You go to the back of the line. Because remember who's really in charge here?
The
The
final
Rock.
boss. Yep.
Okay. So The Rock is going to say, nope, you lost. You got to earn your way back in and earn a title shot. So another story builds for Cody. And he eventually takes the belt off of Cena. I just feel like at some point there's going to be a moment, and we'll know when it happens, where you go, oh, there's John Cena.
Mm-hmm.
That's the John Cena we know and love. That's the John Cena that's John. And that's going to be the time where he's like, okay, I messed up. I sold out. I shouldn't have sold out. The Rock is going to get involved and he's going to pressure Cena into doing these things that Cena knows that he shouldn't do. And he knows that it goes against everything he believes in. But because he sold his soul to The Rock, he's got to do it.
Right.
Cena's a puppet for The Rock. Same way Hogan was a puppet.
Mm.
Same way Brett
Right.
was a puppet. So Cena has become, again, what he despises.
Which Bray Wyatt, I'd like to bring up the Firefly Funhouse. He
Yes.
that
He
oh
predicted it.
he did with Cena ending, and I remember we had again another 2 hour conversation about that segment alone of
Yep.
him ending with NWO brand, black and white, Hollywood Cena, because I mean the Cena we grew up with, obviously people change and people grow and people do different things, and especially with this craft and this kind of line of work, wrestlers, they're basically actors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they go through an extensive training program to get to where they're at. Cena is now more in Hollywood movies, I think, that I've seen him since he was in the Marine,
Oh,
which
yeah.
I still have on DVD.
Me too.
So it's one of those things where you see it happening as like a train wreck. You don't want to look away. And Bray
Yes.
predicted it. God rest his soul, but Bray did it so perfectly and cinematically that it
Well, and again, I would say you're 100% right, but I would question, was it a prediction or did he foreshadow what was coming?
maybe a bit of both.
So uh, it's just so for those that have been watching since Thugonomics, John Cena is so unthinkable for him to be a bad guy.
Right.
And he is, man. But again, I would drive home the point that Cena is doing The Rock's bidding.
Right.
Last year, remember what the main event of WrestleMania was supposed to be. It was supposed to be Roman Reigns versus The Rock.
Right.
I remember the SmackDown where Cody comes out and he confronts Roman and he tells him, I'm not your opponent at WrestleMania, but you do know your opponent and you know him pretty well. And
Right.
The Rock's music hits, and the whole freaking show ends with The Rock and Roman Reigns nose to nose. And then something happened. And it's very, very rarely happened in the history of wrestling. And this is the truth. If you watch the Behind the Curtains documentary, you know this is a fact.
Right.
The crowd started chanting, "We want Cody. We want Cody." And so creative, Triple H, WWE, had to go in a different direction. They had to reinsert Cody into that main event. So Cody stole something from The Rock. You got to know the history
Right.
here.
Yeah.
This is going back, okay? So The Rock tried to get to Cody Rhodes first through Roman Reigns, and he succeeded halfway. And then on night 2 of WrestleMania, he didn't succeed because of The Undertaker.
Right.
Now, instead of Roman Reigns doing The Rock's bidding, now it's the next best option. It's John Cena. So the real thorn in Cody's side is not John Cena. It's The Rock. The Rock is the one that wants to get payback on Cody Rhodes. The Rock is the one that needs to get to him. And The Rock is also the guy that Cody Rhodes needs to get to. But he can't get to The Rock because The Rock won't fight him, at
Right.
least not fairly. He'll attack him from behind and he'll group and he'll gang up on him, but he won't do it one-on-one. Why?
I think he's doing the mind game too. He's getting him personally. So, for example, which I notated it at the end of Elimination Chamber, and I noticed that there was a date on the inscription of Cody's Soul Belt. You look
Mm,
up that date, and it's the day that Dusty Rhodes passed away. So
yeah.
now you're getting personal.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
I'm sorry,
exactly.
if you bring my daddy up, we
Right.
fighting.
But again, Chris, that just drives the point home that Cena's not the enemy here.
Right.
I mean, I really want people to understand. Yeah, Cena's a heel, and yeah, Cena's the guy that Cody's probably going to fight at Mania.
He's the puppet.
Cena is not. Cena is not the driving force behind this. The Rock is, and so at some point, The Rock is going to overstep his bounds, and he's going to try to tell Cena what to do, and Cena's going to look at him and go, "Wait a minute, you SOB. I've beaten you before. You may have beaten me before, but I've beaten you before." And so at that point, do Cena and The Rock get into it? This thing could go so many ways, but we come to the same conclusion. There is no way that Cena ends his career as a heel. There's no way.
No.
You got to end like you start. And I think the ultimate thing would be if Cena disobeys The Rock, because remember, what belongs to Cena belongs to The Rock. If Cena disobeys The Rock, The Rock's just going to say, "Oh, yeah? Give me the belt. I'm champion. I'm crowning myself champion, and I can do that because I'm your boss.
Right.
You can't tell me anything." And so at that point, does it become Cody and The Rock? And if The Rock is in trouble, like let's just say this is at SummerSlam, whatever, okay? If it's Cody versus The Rock and Cena gets involved and we all think he's going to get involved on behalf of The Rock because he sold his soul to him, what if Cena goes in that ring and plants The Rock? And Cody pins The Rock, wins the belt back, and Cena raises his hand, and that's how Cena ends his career. That would be the most John Cena thing ever. There's no way. I just got goosebumps. Geez. There's no way that Cena does not do a dramatic face turn at the end of
I
this
could
thing.
see him doing this to The Rock, doing
That's
an
right.
attitude adjustment on him and
That's
knocking him
right.
out. That would be pretty dope. I could
That
get
would be
behind
the
that.
most John Cena thing
Right.
to do.
Right. It's
You know?
doing the right thing for other people, you know?
Yep.
Um, which now that we're talking about Reigns and we're talking about The Rock, because you can't talk about The Rock without Roman Reigns, could the OTC, the only tribal chief, get in the middle of this? But ah, here's a plot. Now we have CM Punk and Seth Rollins.
Hmm.
Now what?
Well,
Now what?
so Roman is always an X factor. I have said for quite a while that at some point, some kind of way, Roman and The Rock will go head up at some point. So I don't know if he gets involved in this Cena thing for Mania. He could. I mean, he very easily could because remember, Cody volunteered to help Roman beat the new bloodline
Right.
in the cage. So you almost feel like Roman owes Cody one,
Yeah.
maybe. Um, it's tough to say right now because of your other segue with Punk and Rollins. Let me tell you something. This CM Punk Seth Rollins thing is incredible.
I actually got a question from one of my really great friends. I think of her, she's a sister to me, basically. She
Mhm.
said, I don't understand wrestling, but I have a question. Why do Rollins and Punk hate each other so much? And I feel like it's just deep rooted, just personally, that is what drives this storyline is just a personal hate. And you can tell by the way they're knocking each other around, that's not just a little slap across the face. That is, I'm beating the crap out of you because I hate you so much. This storyline, I mean, the rest of the storylines we've talked about are just incredible, but this one has just been take the cake and run with it. It has just been slobber knocker after slobber knocker. I'm hollering at the TV, no refs, let them keep fighting, let them
Yeah.
keep fighting, and they keep breaking it up. I and this is one of those ones that we could go down an entire rabbit hole because now you have Roman Reigns involved. He took Rollins out of the cage. Rollins automatically won the match. You just screwed CM Punk over. And then the wise man comes in to console CM Punk, and
Mhm.
Roman takes him out. There's just so much to happen here. And then you have CM Punk, who has that favor from Paul Heyman. What is that favor? God only knows. But God, what could happen next?
The favor to me, it's not what is the favor.
Mm-hmm.
The favor is whatever CM Punk wants it to be.
Right.
I don't think CM Punk has oh, this is what I want the favor to be. I think CM Punk is going to figure out what the favor is when the time comes. So to answer the first question without going too deep into it,
Right. Yeah.
Seth and Punk, there is a deeply rooted disdain for one another, okay? And I think some of it is real. I obviously they're acting. So they
Right.
would
Yeah.
obviously they're going to do business because they're both making money off of it and it's the business. But I think to work with each other as much as they have, they've probably patched things up to a degree.
Right.
But I know for a fact that when Rollins came onto the scene, so Seth and Punk are interesting because they're so much alike in their journey to the WWE. They both did the indie scene. They both had to scratch and claw and grind their way to get an opportunity. And once they did, they took full advantage of it. But that's that's the road for most of these guys. Look at
Right.
AJ Styles. Hey, AJ Styles has wrestled around the
That
world.
is my boy. That
Me
is
too. I
my
love him to
boy.
death.
Yes. I've been watching him since TNA.
Mr. TNA, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's the road that's traveled for most of these guys. Is the Cena who came, I mean, he was in Ohio Valley, but that's the WWE independent. Cena started in the WWE and is still in the WWE. That's rare. I mean, you look at the history of the WWE. How many guys have been in WWE since day one, never left, and ended their career there? Not many.
Oh,
So the road that has been traveled by Punk and Rollins is virtually the same. But when Rollins came into the WWE, Punk advocated for Rollins. Punk pushed Rollins as, guys, y'all need to look at this kid. He supported him. And then CM Punk did what CM Punk did when he left the company. And Seth's big thing, and he's right about this, Punk did try to tear the WWE down.
right.
And he talked a lot of shit and really said some really outlandish and bold things. Not that they weren't true, okay, but he tried to tear the place down. And meanwhile, Seth's over here grinding and fighting, and so it's a personal thing for
Right.
Seth.
Yeah.
So there is some deeply rooted dislike there. Those two guys, I could watch those two guys go at it every day of the week and be content.
Right.
Roman makes this thing interesting because now Seth Rollins and CM Punk, as much as they had in common before, they've got something else in common. They've got a common enemy, and that is Roman Reigns.
Mm-hmm.
For Seth, it goes all the way back to the Shield.
Right.
For Punk, it's, oh, you're the new Paul Heyman guy. I'm the original Paul Heyman guy. Paul owes me. So, again, so many possibilities. It is tough for me to believe because, man, they have built CM Punk up. Not that he really needed the building. He's CM Punk, for God's sake.
Right.
But they have really, really built him up. And he's going, what people don't understand is he's going to main event WrestleMania. It's going to be WrestleMania night one. I promise you, that's the main event on night one.
Right.
Now, here, and this could tie in directly to the Cena Cody thing. What if, again, what if the winner of that triple threat match gets into the match on night two? Then what? Like, there are so many, because all these guys are intertwined, right? Because Punk and Rhodes were in the cage with Roman. Like, both of those guys have helped Roman, even when they probably thought better of it.
Right.
They both don't really like Roman. And then you got Seth, who doesn't like any of them.
Right.
So it's like, where's it going to go? And they look, the storytelling is unbelievable because you can't predict anything. I have no idea what's going to happen in that match because there are benefits to any of the three guys winning.
Right.
So what direction do they decide to go in?
All I know is I'm here for it.
Dude, what?
I'm
Are you
here for
kidding
it.
me?
I could watch all of this dynamic storytelling, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with how amazing it is. That is something that I appreciate so much as a wrestling fan is that dynamic storytelling. I
That's what it's all
love it
about.
so much because that is what keeps you coming. Just like we said, it's a soap opera. My
Yep.
grandpa used to call this, "Oh, you're watching the soap operas again," because my
Hmm.
grandmother loved wrestling, you know. It's great to see, and I'm here for it. I want to continue seeing it happen. And I need the rest to stop breaking up Cody. I mean,
Yeah.
breaking up CM Punk and Rollins. Like I needed to stop because I need to watch CM Punk get his pound of flesh. I have been a Punk girl from day one. That has been my guy. Like I have loved CM Punk from day one. And
Yeah.
I just
Look,
need him to get his pound of flesh.
it's so interesting because I was not a Punk guy at first, but when he did the cult of personality flip, that's again, he came into himself
Right.
with, when he had the This Fire Burns theme, which great theme song,
I
but
still blare it in my car.
great theme song. But he did the straight edge society thing, and then yeah, it just wasn't.
No, it
Yeah.
wasn't Punk.
The guy could kill it in the ring. Don't get me wrong. The guy could have a great match with pretty much anyone, but he didn't have that
Humph.
je ne sais quoi
Yeah.
about him, right? Well, when he did the cult of personality flip,
And he became the voice of the people.
that was, let me tell you something. That was, he was so unbelievably popular. He was so over. And from that day on, I have really, really liked CM Punk a lot. I met him. I've told you the story
Right.
about at Reds. For those that don't know, that's a biggest fitness club anywhere near here. Okay.
Right.
I met him when he was WWE champion. He walked into the building with the belt around his waist and walked up to him. And I told him, I said, Mr. Punk, I don't want to be rude, but I'm a huge fan. It's really cool to see you, whatever. I mean, I was 13.
Right.
But I had the wherewithal to understand that's the same day I met John Cena. That's the same day I met Kofi Kingston, Rey Mysterio, Kane. They were all there working out before Raw on the Monday. And but Punk was the nicest guy and took the time. It was 2 minutes, but that 2 minutes meant so much to me as a 13-year-old because, dude, that's the freaking WWE champion.
Right.
Is one of the most popular men in the world. I mean, the world knows who that guy is. And he just took the time out of his day to tell me hi, shake my hand. Super nice guy. So I am you will not hear me say a bad word about CM Punk, and he is unapologetically himself.
Right.
And I love that. However, I also love Seth Rollins.
Right.
And Seth is right about this whole when Punk left the company, he
Right.
ran it down and he tried to kill it. And then he went and joined the competition. And he's right. So there's a part of me that is like, well, Seth's been loyal.
Right.
Seth hasn't gone anywhere. And look, dude, it doesn't get much better than Seth Rollins. Okay. So I would lean CM Punk because of history, but with this guy involved,
It's
this
anybody's guess.
this is my guy.
Right.
Okay. This is my guy. So you know who I'm rooting for, but all three of them, man.
Right.
Any of the three could win, and you got a great outcome. That's the beauty of that match.
Right. Like I'm not against Seth Rollins. I loved the Shield faction. I love that storyline between him and Roman always come back because
Yeah.
he took Roman out with a steel chair to the back. That is like stabbing someone in the back. And then CM Punk,
one of the 5 or 6 greatest heel turns of all time.
right. And CM Punk, he is unapologetically himself. He says what is on his mind. At that time, I'm sure he was going through a lot. And then he loved the company. He didn't like the person running it,
Vince, right,
you
right.
know? And I think we've all been there in our own personal lives. We love what we do. We hate the people that run it,
Yeah, well,
you know?
and it was tough to believe, I think, Christina, because we didn't believe what Punk was saying about Vince.
Right.
Because Vince had never been accused of anything. I mean, he had the steroid allegation way back when, but he had never been accused of anything crazy or whatever. And then all this stuff came out about him, and then you're like, well, fuck,
That
CM Punk was right.
that shit was crazy. I told my husband about it. I said,
Nuts,
"Babe, this is
nuts.
happening." And
Yeah,
then you feel dirty and you feel
yeah,
wronged and you're like, this person gave me the entertainment that I grew up with my entire life and now,
yeah,
you
crazy, dude.
know? Um, but let's keep rolling. Um, we've wrapped up most of our storylines, some crazy storylines, some crazy avenues. Next 5 weeks is going to be a
Oh,
madhouse.
dude. Yeah,
I
I mean,
think we all know that as wrestling fans, the next 5 weeks are that crunch time and it is going to be a madhouse.
it's must see.
If you're not
It's must
watching
see.
wrestling and you're under a rock, I think you need to get out from underneath that rock and start watching wrestling.
Dude, I'm telling you,
Get
it's
into it. Even if you don't understand what's happening, just get into it. It's
best
all
time
I
of the
got to
year, dude.
say. All I got to say. Give it a chance. You might really like it.
Best time of the year.
We're a great people to hang about.
Yeah.
So, we talked a little bit about Mount Rushmore, which I
Uh-oh.
think a lot of us wrestling fans have our own staple of Mount Rushmores. And
You
I could
have to.
add an entire canvas of wrestlers on a Mount Rushmore. And recently, with Mania season, I always jump back into older Manias. That's one of my weird little hobbies I like to do. I put it on, I watch it, I really get back into it. So I have here my Mount Rushmore, which I have
List.
many. I
You
have
just made the
many.
list.
You just made the list. Jericho's is one of
Oh,
those, but
how
he's
great is
not
Chris
on this
Jericho?
paper. He
How
did
great
not
is
make
Chris
the
Jericho?
list on my paper.
Shout out Chris Jericho, man.
Look, I
That
watched
dude is
Fozzy
so
with my
good.
brother, and he was amazing. Him and his band.
I'm telling you,
If you have not listened to Fozzy,
Jericho's a stud,
he
dude.
really is. And he's still rocking and rolling at his age and still killing it and playing music. Come on.
Jericho's a stud.
And let's get into it. The Undertaker. I started going back and watching old things. Really, Undertaker's been one of those wrestlers for me who has been a constant because I've always loved that he remained true to his character for so long. The American Badass was one of my personal favorites. I loved how he came out on a Harley and he was the biker and he just messed stuff up. You have a 30-year career, 1990 to 2020. His accomplishments include a 4-time champ. It's 3-time heavyweight champ. It's a 6-time world tag team champ. 21 win streak. And you were there the night he lost to
I
Brock
was there.
Lesnar. And I think we all were a little shocked when that happened. I know
A
that I
little.
cried. I boohoo cried. And then you find out about it later on what really happened in the spot. And then you're like, okay, maybe it wasn't so bad. At least he was safe and he was okay. I mean, as okay as you could be. Hall of
Yeah, I mean
Famer, just
the plan was not for him to lose that night.
right. I
For
think
those
he
that
would
don't
have
know.
kept going as
Yeah,
long as he possibly could. I mean, he is quote unquote the Santa Claus of our of our
yeah,
industry. He comes
yeah.
back once a year for WrestleMania, then goes back into whatever he's doing with his family. Um, Specialty matches. I always loved a good casket match. I
Oh,
always loved a good buried alive match. I think the one buried alive that stays still in my mind is him and Kane burying him alive. And I think that the Undertaker's dead.
mm-hmm.
I boohoo cried at that Survivor Series as well.
Yeah.
Hell in a Cell matches, just amazing, amazing person. He is definitely on my Mount Rushmore.
So this is Mount Rushmore, just all time, right?
Just all time for me. I mean,
Okay.
I could go on and on and on of men and women
Yeah.
who Mount Rushmore, but we're going to end the show with these four individuals. Um, let's get into it. One of your favorites, the showstopper, Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid, Mr. WrestleMania. That man, amazing. I've never personally met him. He is on my bucket list of people that I want to sign my jacket. Just an amazing career. He is one of those people that, like, right now I'm listening to his audiobook about his life. And I love that he took his life and did a whole 180, found God, came to Christ, came back with the issues he had with his back and everything, and dominated. He's always been one of those, for me, I think he's a workhorse. I think he just kept going at it, just like Seth Rollins. He has a messed up back, he has a messed up knee, but he keeps coming every single week to entertain us. He started with one of the greatest groups, in my opinion, D-Generation X. If you didn't do this to a teacher or to anyone on the schoolyard and didn't get detention, you don't know what we're talking about.
For life.
For life. Oh God, DX. I could do a whole segment on just D-Generation X
For
and
life.
watching them.
I could do a whole show on DX.
We might need to do that. That honestly is one of my favorite tag teams, besides the Legion of Doom and the Hardy Boys, multiple tag teams. But D-Generation X, his mic skills, cut a
Mm-hmm.
promo. His promos, I watched a promo recently. I watched a WrestleMania. Him and Vince McMahon went at it with each other. His promo before that match,
Yeah.
phenomenal. The man, you can't miss him on a mic. That is why he is on my Mount Rushmore. Which leads us into this next one, the Cerebral Assassin, the Game, the King of Kings, the man running the show,
A
Mr.
man.
Paul Triple H Levesque. I just recently rewatched their Hell in a Cell match back in 2004 at Bad Blood. I went to that
What a
Monday Night
match.
Raw, went to that Monday Night Raw the night after that, watched Kane put a chair on Shawn
Yeah.
Michaels and stomp on it. I
Yeah.
was traumatized,
Yeah.
actually legit traumatized.
Yeah.
What can I say about this man? He is just champion, 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 tag team champion, king of the ring, Royal Rumble winner, seventh triple crown champ, Grand Slam champ, and now he's just the chief operating officer.
He's the man.
He is the man. Like that is, I always loved JR's call every time he'd break out the sledgehammer and knock somebody out. My dad's like, there he goes with the damn sledgehammer again. Oh, here he comes with the sledgehammer. Wow, Triple H with the sledgehammer.
Shout out JR, man.
That man on the mic,
Triple H, you son of a
you
bitch.
son of a
Oh, yeah.
bitch. Oh my God.
Do you
Like,
have no heart? Do you have no
no
soul?
heart.
You son of a
Why would you
bitch.
do this to your friend? I love JR. Good old JR.
Gotta love JR's the GOAT, man.
Like he could come back to wrestling and I could listen to him. I could listen to him just to go to sleep at night, just him
Oh,
screaming, "You son of a bitch."
he's the best.
Amazing heel. Triple H overall just the pinnacle of heelism. And then he had DX and he had Evolution. You had
Hmm.
Randy Orton, you had Dave Batista, and you had Ric Flair.
Yeah.
Evolution. I loved them as a faction, but then I hated them too because they took out a couple of my people.
That was the point, though.
But
That was the point. They were a heel
right,
faction.
I was a kid. I
But
didn't
fun
understand.
fact. Fun fact about Evolution. We talk about all these factions, and
Right.
everybody talks about the NWO and the Heart Foundation and the Four Horsemen, Legion, whatever. Evolution between those four guys, 49 world titles
Jeez, I didn't think
between
about
those
that.
four guys. 49.
God,
Yeah, that's some serious
how do
gold
you
right
like them
there,
apples?
man.
John Cena get 49 titles.
That's some serious hardware right there.
Golly, though, man.
Evolution is so, and I mean, we're gonna do a Mount Rushmore of factions eventually on the show, but
Yes.
Evolution is disgustingly underrated. in my opinion, as a
And I love
faction.
their theme song.
It's the
Evolution isn't
best.
mystery.
Shout out Motorhead, man.
Oh
God,
God, I love Motorhead.
Evolution is disgustingly underrated.
They are amazing. And my last one, give me a hell yeah, Stone Cold Steve Austin, the Rattlesnake. A huge pinnacle part of the Attitude Era in the 90s. That man honestly drove the Attitude Era, drove it. If you didn't flip somebody off and kick them and do a stunner on them on the schoolyard, were you really watching Monday Night Raw?
Give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah. He won the King of the Ring and then he came up with Austin 316, just kicked your ass.
Mm-hmm.
That he has always been one of my favorite personal wrestlers my whole life. I have many favorites that I could even go into a whole segment on who is my favorite and why. And it's Stone Cold Steve Austin. He stayed true blue to who he was, even though he turned heel for a little while. But he came out there and it was business. Business
Yep.
is about to pick up. He's about to
Oh
stump a
yeah.
mud hole. Like you knew it was about to hit when that theme music came on. And I'm so upset that I did not play that on my wedding last year because I got married on 316 day. Opportunities missed, but
Yeah.
we'll be all right. But do we have any final predictions before we wrap up this amazing podcast
Well, so I'll,
show?
I'll give you mine. Um, so yours is Taker, Shawn, Triple H, Austin. That's pretty good.
Yes.
So Mount Rushmore for me, there are four categories. There are four things I look at in a WWE superstar. Okay, one is in ring. Okay, what kind of a performer are you? Second one is mic skills. Third one is your character. And the fourth one is your impact. So I do my Mount Rushmore a little bit differently. These are not my four all-time favorites. These are the four greatest, in my opinion. They're very different lists. Okay,
Right.
if I was doing my four favorites, this list would look a lot
Yeah,
different.
exactly.
So I'll start with mic skills, and I in this is Rushmore. So I think you have to start with Ric Flair.
Oh God,
Um,
yes.
Ric Flair, and I know I'm gonna get some pushback on this because of The Rock. Okay, I get the Rock thing on the mic. Okay, The
Right.
Rock is probably the best on the mic ever, but Flair was the original. Flair was the guy that made it cool to talk shit.
Right.
Flair was the guy, he was the first guy that knew he was good, that talked about how good he was,
The gold
and
Rolexes.
then went in the ring and backed it up.
Right.
Flair made Flair had that thing, and he was the first one to have that thing that we look, whatever that thing is. Flair had it. 16-time world champion, 2-time Hall of Famer. The list goes on and on and on with Flair. The Four Horsemen, Evolution. I could go for a week
Right.
about how great Ric Flair is. I cannot have a Mount Rushmore without Ric Flair, because I think if not for Flair, there is no Rock. That's how I feel, because Ric Flair made the microphone cool. He just did. So Flair, I am 100% with you on the Undertaker. Um, I don't think so. And then this is the character
Right.
portion of the Mount Rushmore. To me, the Undertaker is the greatest character, not only in the history of the WWE, but in the history of wrestling. 30 years as one character, his ability to evolve and transform that character into whatever type of vibe he wanted to give off, whether it was the dead man, whether it was the Ministry of Darkness, whether it was the American Badass, whether it was Big Evil, whether it didn't matter. It was still the Undertaker.
Right.
And he still had that presence about him, no matter what kind of like the Four Faces of Foley kind of
Hmm.
thing. But the Undertaker, the streak, here is the best way I can describe it to you. The greatest thing I have ever seen in my life, and I have seen I've seen a lot in wrestling. WrestleMania 30 in New Orleans, I was there. His entrance, there were 75,000 people in the Superdome. His in I'm gonna start. Whew, sorry. His entrance. Yeah, exactly. It is it is bone chilling. It is awe inspiring. And it just I had to, like, Maddie was sitting right next. I had to hold her hand, standing, because we were standing,
Wow.
we weren't sitting. I had to grasp her hand because I'm like, this is not real. This is not just this is the Undertaker at WrestleMania.
Right.
It was the like Brock had already come into the ring, and quick shout out to Brock, he's amazing. Brock had already come out, and Taker's music, it was I don't even have the words. It was so incredible. The matches, the rivalry with Kane, the rivalry with, oh my God, you could go forever with his opponents, Triple H, Shawn Michaels. I mean, you can't. We don't have the time to fully encapsulate how great the Undertaker is. He's the greatest character in the history of wrestling. He's on the Rushmore.
Amen.
Third is Impact. Okay, who is the person that has made the biggest impact on the industry? There's one answer, and it's Steve Austin. Steve Austin was told by Eric Bischoff when he was in WCW that he would never amount to anything more than a mid-card curtain jerker. And Steve Austin went to the WWE and completely changed the face of wrestling. He was the lead horse, as you mentioned, of the Attitude Era. But he, along with other stars, he put WCW under.
Right.
WCW was winning. They were not just winning the Monday Night War, they were annihilating the WWF at the
Yes.
time. They were annihilating them. And then Austin had the turn. He beat Shawn at WrestleMania 13. And from then on, Austin was the man. WrestleMania 15. Sorry, not 13, 15. Austin was the man. And his character transformation, his segments with the Zamboni, the beer truck,
Zamboni.
filling Mr. McMahon's Corvette with concrete,
That was a classic.
um, the beer bath, the rivalry with Vince
I
was
believe
just,
he threw a title into the river at one point too.
boy, he threw the Rock's title into the, yeah, I mean, the rivalry with the Rock.
Oh
Is there
my
a greater
God.
rivalry in the history of wrestling than Austin Rock? Probably not.
No.
Okay. Austin, if not, I firmly believe, if not for Austin, the WWE is not here today.
Right.
And that's a big statement, but it is the truth. WCW had it all.
Oh, we used to switch
And
in between one
and
commercial break and we'd go to Nitro.
right, exactly. And Austin completely turned it upside down.
Right.
And for that reason alone, amongst other reasons, but for that reason alone, he is on my Mount Rushmore. So I've got Flair, Undertaker, and Austin. And my final one, and I'm gonna try to get through this. Um, Shawn Michaels. You know how I feel about Shawn. To me, he and you can ask anybody in the business. There's a really cool little interview thing with Cody Rhodes where he's like building his perfect wrestler,
Mm-hmm.
and they go Mike skills and charisma, and he picks his dad and he picks himself, and the final thing they ask him is in-ring performance, and he thinks about it for a second and he goes, Shawn Michaels. The man could have a 5-star match with a mop.
Right. That's why he's one of my favorites is the man could go in that ring and just paint a beautiful canvas.
It did not matter who that man was in the ring with, you were going to remember it. That was his goal, was to have you, if you remembered nothing about that night, you remembered the match that Shawn Michaels was in.
Right.
And he was so much better than everyone else. Like 1996, 97, Shawn Michaels was, I mean, and that's when I started watching wrestling, was when Shawn was WWF champion.
Right.
I post screw job
Yeah.
is when I started watching wrestling. Shawn was the man. Like there was nobody even in his class. I mean, he was so good on the mic, in the ring, promo, DX. He was, there was nobody close to it. You get into the DX stuff, you get into the Bret Hart thing, but where Shawn really kind of tugs at the heartstrings is with the injury.
Right.
98, he's in a casket match with the Undertaker, which was a freaking phenomenal match. And Taker gives him a back body drop over the top rope, and Shawn is supposed to clear the casket, and he undershot it, and he came down right on the edge of the casket and broke his back. And then he wrestled another 30 minutes.
Yep.
That's what I mean. What do you even say? And that injury is supposed to end his career, and he comes back in 02 at SummerSlam against Triple H. We remember the whole thing leading up to that match when Triple H put Shawn's head through the limousine,
Yeah.
and Triple H, I'm going to find out who did this to you, Shawn. And Shawn,
It was you.
it was you, Hunter. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and I'll be back by, say, SummerSlam. Uh, and he comes back and he just never misses a beat.
No.
And he was supposed to come back for one match. He ended up coming back for 8 years. And to me, the greatest match I ever saw was after WrestleMania 23. Shawn fought John Cena at WrestleMania 23 for the title.
Mm-hmm.
John retained the belt. Not the Raw, not the next night, but the next week. They wrestled in a non-title match in the main event. Monday Night Raw. 57 minutes.
I actually do not remember that match. I'm gonna have to go back and
A
watch it after this.
57-minute match. Just one-on-one. No hardcore rules. No nothing. It is the greatest match I have ever seen in my life. I'm serious. If you haven't, to everybody out there, if you haven't watched a match, do yourself a favor and go watch that match. It was unbelievable. But to encapsulate it, let me tell you why I think Sean's not only on the Rushmore. To me, he's the GOAT. First Hell in a Cell match. Shawn Michaels won it. First ladder match. Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon.
Oh God, Razor Ramon was one of my favorites.
Okay.
I still go, hey yo.
Yeah. Hey, yo. Yeah. First Elimination Chamber match. Shawn Michaels won it. First Iron Man match. Shawn Michaels won it.
Banger after banger after
Hey,
banger with Shawn
this
Michaels.
guy won matches that pay-per-views are now named after.
Right.
Premium live events are named after these matches, and Shawn is the guy that won the first of all of them. He's an innovator. He's ah
Shawn, we could literally do an entire podcast on how amazing Shawn Michaels is just overall. Like, I don't think
Shawn.
anybody could tell us a horrible thing about the showstopper.
Shawn is the GOAT. I've said that for a long time, and people kind of Shawn Michaels. I'm like,
The dude's been wrestling since he was 19 years old.
dude, if you don't understand it, you're just not gonna understand it because
Right.
you didn't live in that time. It's like to understand the Hulk Hogan thing, and you know how I feel about Hogan.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll discuss that at some point.
We'll
But
open that can of worms later.
yeah, but to fully understand the Hulk Hogan thing, you had to be there.
Right.
You had to live it. To fully understand Ric Flair's impact and influence, you had to be there. Shawn was the first WWE champion for me. It's when I first started wrestling.
Right.
And Shawn was so much better. And that was a loaded era, dude. Shawn was so much better than everybody else. And 20 years later, he's still better than everyone. It's
He's
unbelievable.
still relevant in every single
It's
conversation you
unbelievable.
have with wrestling fans.
So
Someone's going to bring up Shawn Michaels.
so mine would be Shawn, Taker, Flair, and Austin.
Well, we're definitely going to have to do another Rushmore of factions.
Oh,
I think
dude,
we're
we
going
got
to
to
have
do
to definitely do
factions.
that next.
We got to do factions.
It might be an entire show.
We got to do women. We got
Women,
to do tag teams.
God,
We got to do pay-per-views. We got to do yeah, there's so many Rushmores to do, man. Mic skills, in-ring talent. I mean, character. You could do whatever with Rushmores.
and that's where I put a pin in it. Stay tuned, America, because we
Yeah,
could go on and on and on and on and on and on. Um, but you know what? Let's wrap it up. Let's call it a night.
dude. I am super stoked for this. I think just having the ability to come on here and you know my whole goal with this whole thing, and this is kind of your this is your baby. This is your idea. So you're kind of the lead mule here. But I just want to give people, especially the younger generation that may be listening to this, that doesn't really know the history like you and I do because we've been watching for so long. I just want to give them background
Right?
and help them understand. Well, what does this mean? Well, let me tell you what it means. Let me give you and look, whether it's not right, it's not wrong. It's just my
Right.
perspective. And so this is so cool to be able to do this and just kind of free flow and basically all we're doing is having a conversation, and just giving people a different perspective that they may not have thought about before.
I think my whole goal with this, which it's been heavy on me lately, very heavy. I have loved wrestling my entire life. At one point as a kid, I was like, I'm gonna go be a wrestler.
Hmm.
Didn't happen, obviously, but that was my goal. I was researching on what I had to do. I'm like, all right, I got to start in the indies. Okay, I'm from Ohio, Ohio Valley Wrestling. Let's
Yep,
go.
perfect.
And then, oh, well, now we got to go to the performance center. And it's such a layer.
Dude.
I mean, this I want to give back to the wrestling community because it has given me so much. And
Hmm.
I want to share that love with people. This is something that I grew up with because of my dad. If it was not for my dad, I would not be a wrestling fan. I would not have been a rough and tumble tomboy. I would not have been playing wrestling music and walking out to it and fighting kids in the neighborhood because that's
Hmm.
what we all did. We grew up watching wrestling. We all fought each other in the neighborhood. It was a cycle, it's a vicious cycle. And no matter what happens with this, I want to give that love back. That is my goal. And I think I'm going to
Amen.
end it on that.
Cool, man.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining in on our podcast. Please like, subscribe, whatever kind of technological thing you could add in there. Tune in. We have plenty more to unpack. Chris, like always, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And until next time, have a great night.